Okay, so this has been blowing up my Twitter feed. It's all I can see on Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere I go on social media. It's all about Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Sony, Marvel, Disney. Oh, boycott Sony. I hate Disney. Blame blah 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 blah. I can't. Oh, they're gonna reboot Spider-Man. Let me address this, okay? Because definitely my opinion is what's needed on the situation. I will start with the facts, and I then will give my thoughts on the situation. Now, to tell the story properly, we gotta go way, way, way back to the ancient times of the 1990s, which is where I'm from. I'll do a separate video about that in the future. Marvel Comics, believe it or not, was going bankrupt. Nobody cared about comic books anymore. I don't even know how DC survived, probably because of the whole Death of Superman thing. But in order to keep from having to fire everybody and shut their doors permanently, Marvel was like, I have an idea. Let's sell off the film rights to all our characters, not license them out, not lease them, sell them. They are no longer ours. So a whole bunch of characters went to Fox, which includes Deadpool, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, and also Daredevil, but the rights expired in 2013. Hulk went to Universal as well as Namor, the Submariner. Spider-Man went to Sony. Blade went to New Line Cinema. I think Punisher went to Lionsgate. Um, Whatever, that's not important. Point is, though, a bunch of characters got scattered all around the place. And with that, Sony had full autonomy over what happens with Spider-Man on screen. Now, that has led to some very good and bad things. I mean, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are still top tier Spider-Man films. I can enjoy 3 in some places. The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 are terrible, but that's because executive producer Avi Arad didn't know what was going on with the fans, didn't know what they wanted, didn't know what they would respond to. So he just created a movie that absolutely broke the Spider-Man character fundamentally, didn't let director Mark Webb actually direct the movie, didn't give him any creative freedom, just producer it all over the movie. So that's not particularly anybody's fault except for that particular producer, but that's not the point. In 2015, Marvel and Sony came to a sharing arrangement with the character. It was essentially Sony would finance the movie, Disney would make it, Sony would market it, they would split the profits, Disney would get all the money from merchandising, as well as, I think, 15% of all ticket sales. And that's how it was for Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home. The Avengers and Captain America movies that Spider-Man was in was fully Disney, so they got all of that. Now, I'll admit, Disney did do the casting for all the Spider-Man cast and characters, but it's just like, oh, Disney made the movie and Sony took all the credit. Sony paid for the movie still because it's still their property. It's their character, their movie. They are financing this $200 million film. So, they have to pay their staff with the money that they get from the movies. They're not gonna take PlayStation revenue and give it to Sony Pictures Entertainment employees. That doesn't make any sense. But since that deal was 4 years ago, it came time to renew it for next year because Tom Holland is only contracted for one more film, and that is chronologically supposed to be Spider-Man 3. Disney, though, wanted a 50-50 split. And not just like 50-50 for profits, they also wanted to split the production cost 50-50. And that's cool and all, but the thing is, Spider-Man Far From Home made over $1 billion, and if they were to split that 50-50, of course, each studio would take home $500 million. And that's about as much money as Ant-Man and the Wasp made, and Sony is capable of making more than that on a Spider-Man film by themselves. They've done it 3 times. So I think they were definitely smart to stand their ground on this. I don't think that they should have let Disney bully them. As a matter of fact, they said no to the deal, and now Spider-Man is pretty much out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. which will prove to be interesting in the future. But he's going back to Sony. Tom Holland's not getting recast. They're not going to reboot Spider-Man yet. They're still going to make that Spider-Man 3 movie, but it's going to be just Sony. Now, here's why I'm looking forward to this. Some of the best Spider-Man movies ever made were strictly Sony. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I've been using Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as an example of how good Sony Spider-Man movies can be for a couple of days here. Well, I guess for a day. And everyone's like, well, that doesn't count with Amazing Spider-Man. Sam Raimi and Lord and Miller have one thing in common. They were both allowed to just make the movie they wanted, except for in the case of Spider-Man 3. I will admit, Sony got really grubby on that one. And that's what ended up happening. Sony even imposed a lot of regulations on the Venom movie. I'm realizing I'm a little bit sick, so I'm sorry if I sound like shit. But they even imposed a lot of rules on the Venom movie. And the Venom movie ended up being perfectly enjoyable, and it made $850 million. So I don't see the problem. As long as Sony, if John Watts is still directing, as long as Sony just lets John Watts do what he wants with this Spider-Man movie, it will be fine. Now, moving forward in the MCU, I don't think they'll be able to even mention Peter Parker anymore, which is interesting because, I mean, Tony Stark's entire involvement in Avengers Endgame's story was dependent on him being able to bring back Peter Parker, but we'll have to find some way around that, I suppose. And on the other side, Peter won't be able to mention Tony, which will probably force him into, maturing and growing and adapting as a human being, which is fantastic. It took until Far From Home for me to even start to see Spider-Man as anything other than Iron Boy. And that really hurt my feelings because as much as I love Spider-Man, Spider-Man is my second favorite superhero behind Captain America. I just felt like he deserved more than to be Tony's lapdog, you know what I mean? But now that Tony is dead and Peter is stuck in Sony, we have a lot of potentially great or potentially meh storytelling to look forward to. I think Sony has learned by now to just let the creators create, and what they will get is something that critics and audiences love. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a movie that most people didn't even want to take a chance on. Didn't make too horribly much money at the box office because it's an animated movie, and animated movies are for children, but it still won a Golden Globe and an Academy Award for Best Animated Film. So I think the proof is in the pudding. But that's just what I think and what I know about the situation. If I missed anything, please feel free to tell me in the comments. If I got something wrong, again, tell me in the comments. I'll be wrong. I'll eat my own words if that's the case. But that's just what I think about this whole Spider-Man thing. And I would love to know what you guys think. And remember, kids, hugs, not drugs.